God, this is insane. I can't believe I'm doing this. You know how hard this is to do every day? To find time, even if it's only 15, 20 minutes, when you get two kids running around demanding your attention. A wife that works from home, so there's no quiet times in the home. There's always a business running. Very difficult, but I'm doing it for you. You, who's listening to me now. Yesterday was a good episode. I actually just listened to it myself on the way home from work, I believe. Anyway, I just posted the episode, the Thursday episode, and I'm recording the new episode on Thursday for Fridays. Manitoba Podcast Festival. I promised I was going to do this. I'm going to talk about it every single day. Go check it out. September 29th, Park Theater. Yeah, check it out. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there. We're going to be doing some podcasting live? Potentially live. I'm working out a new rig to do these live, so we'll see if that works. Just reconfirm the guest for this weekend's in-studio podcast episode. Someone I've wanted on the show since it was me flying this show solo. I've already had episodes that talked about the gentleman in question. So there's a teaser and a hint there. See, I don't want to leak this, because sometimes what happens is we've actually tried to have people on the show and it didn't play out. Something happened. So I can tease all I want up to the moment. And then once he's in the studio and we record these things, I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to be there. But this gentle soul seems to be an incredibly reliable source. So I'm really excited. What he doesn't know is we've got the format of what we're going to talk about. That's already been predetermined. But we are going to play a game when he arrives. Yes. He's going to be forced to play a game with us. And then we'll get into the episode. So, what else is going on? Yesterday, after 3 writing sessions, 1 in the morning before work, 1 at lunchtime, and then 1 last night. Thank you, wife. I love you so much. You actually carved out time for me to make sure I finished that scene I was working on. It was the final action sequence in the book. It was the the last chapter proper of the book. It's the big penultimate showdown. And I finished it last night. Now, what I mean by finished is it needed some editing, and as I was working through it, I weaved through some of the threads that had been going on through the rest of the novel, the ones that I've added on this particular edit, and I managed to weave those into the fight, and managed to change the scales somewhat, and I also upped the stakes considerably. The interplay between the main hero and the main villain was great. I introduced a lot of extra elements in there that just brought all this stuff home. Very proud. I finished it. And I've been working on that particular chapter now for a week. I was thinking I was going to finish it last weekend, but you know what? When you're creating something like that, you don't want to rush the final result. You don't want to speed to the finish line. I wanted to make sure I dotted all my I's, crossed all my T's. Probably going to have to do a quick edit over it again to make sure grammar and that sort of stuff is there, but the pacing is there. And I'm very, very proud. So what is left in the book? What do I got left to do? Well, the final chapter, which is really the cleanup chapter, the epilogue. It might be 2 chapters, I can't remember, but I've got it listed all as 1. But it's what happens at the end. Well, I'm not going to lie, I changed some elements in the ending. So I'm actually excited. So I'm going to have to do some editing with some additional writing, finish it off. I decided how to end it, but then I had this thought, maybe I just keep writing. So I don't know. Maybe I add another 5,000 words to the book. I want it to end on a particular note. But I can add two more scenes in there to actually make it really pop. So we'll see what it brings me. Today I'm taking the day off from writing. It's the busiest day of the work week. It's the day where taking a lunch, may not be such a great idea. So we'll see. A lot of work on my plate. Anyway, so that's what's going on with the book. I'm purposely trying to unplug my head from the marketing side of it, from the publishing side of it. I have ideas of what I want to do, but if I let my brain go down that rabbit hole, I won't be finishing the book. So, everything in steps, everything in stages. I think I can devote my November to all of those particular details. That's a long way away. I need to make sure I commit now to finishing the book. Hopefully by the end of October I can finish this edit. And October for cleanup. That's like just formatting, that sort of thing. I've got chapter headers, but I might fix that or change some of those, I guess. And decide on fonts. So that'll be, hopefully that's October. I don't know how long that's going to take. I've never done it on this scale before, so. And then November, I can figure out what I'm going to do. But I want to make sure this ending is good. I really do. I've read so many books with weak endings. I want to make sure. I want to leave it open to go do another one if I want to, but I don't want it to have to go to one. I want to leave it open. But I will say this: if I do another one, I said do. If I do another one, it's not going to be a typical sequel. I'm not going to be following the same notes, following the same beats. It's going to be completely different. This book is a simpler story. The second book, I want to write 3 books. Well, I don't know if I want to. Well, we'll say. If I'm going to do this, it's going to be as 3 books, completely different in style, one from the other, different in scope, one from the other, and the plot is not going to be a continuing plot from book 1 to 2 to 3. I want the plot to be resolved in each book, and I want each book to be a fresh take after a series of events. I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't actually know what I'm going to do. I have ideas on how I would do it if I'm going to do it. But that being said, what else is on the writing front? Well, I have a number of other books that I've written that all need to be edited. And now that I've got now that I've done this one, and I actually know what the editing process can be like versus what it was. See, I wrote a book a long time ago. It's called I'm a Writer or something, which at some point I'm either going to publish, e-publish only, or e-publish and physical publish. I may even offer it for free. I haven't decided what I'm doing with it. It's very, very different from this. It deals with some pretty heavy issues. It was a very hard book for me to write. It was a very emotional book for me to write. But, there's only a few copies floating around, and there's only a few people that have their hands on this. So, maybe it's time to get in the public consciousness. But, that being said, would you want to see content of mine that is far, far different? I don't know. It's more akin to the lyrical content of the Don't Man CD, that's for sure. So maybe it does fit in the spectrum of what people would expect to see from me. Regardless, it will get out in some way, shape, or form. So there's that. I mean, that's a project on its own. I think what I would like to do with that is run and edit through, do some general format changes to it in terms of the layout. The layout, when I did originally, worked at that time, but this was a long time ago that I wrote this, and formatting is a lot easier now. There's a lot more options. There's a lot more you can do with it. So I'm going to revisit that at some point. So that's one of the projects on the back burner that I'm going to get back to. The other project on the back burner is the first novel I wrote, which I wrote longhand. Now, this I wrote when I was very young. This predated the time when everyone had a computer in their home. Yes, that's right. I've never converted it digitally, and I have a feeling I need to do that just in case something were to happen. It's currently stored in my safe in case there's ever a fire. But, yeah, so there's that. There's also, I've got another book called Storybook, which came from an idea I had. It was a fully formed dream. I woke up the next morning, wrote all the details, and started writing the book. But as I was writing the book, as I'm wont to do, I've always got too many ideas percolating in my brain. It more from the concept book that it was, because it was very high concept, to a story about a guy, which isn't bad on its own. So at some point, I've got to go back to that and decide what I'm going to do with it. Yeah, what my plan is. So that could become 2 books on its own. It could just take some extra tweaking to make it happen. It's a very high concept book, and if I were to do take one of the books I've written and continue in the somewhat similar vein of my Sweden book, that's probably the one I should do. I also have the book I did after that, which is called Bossa Nova, which I really like, but it's a book that really needs a lot of polish. A lot of the ideas in there are great. It's just transitionally from what was going to happen. I didn't come in with an ending when I wrote that book, and it currently doesn't have an ending. I just did a nano on it and just kept writing until I ran out of time on nano, but that book is far from complete. But it has a lot of nice things in it that I like. There's also the other book. It was a nano that I never quite completed, and it was called The Journal of Alternate Sensibilities. I know these titles kind of don't make any sense, but it was a book I wrote And like I'm a writer or something, it actually has a soundtrack, and it was written around the soundtrack. So the soundtracks guided where the story was going. And the mood of each scene was based upon the mood of each of those songs. Again, kind of high concept. It's a book written in a very different style. Now that's when I started and have not completed. It's one I go back to every once in a while, and I kick out a chapter. Besides that, there's two. So I've done a lot of writing. There's two other books. There's one called David, and there is another book called Actor. And the idea behind those two books was I was trying to write a book. When I wrote I'm a Writer or something, it was a story about a writer. And these were meant to be non-sequel sequels in a sense that it was supposed to revolve around particular career paths. And how do I explain it? So the writer book was about someone becoming a writer. The actor book was about an actor and what it's like to be an actor. And then the other one was going to be musician, which is the one of the nanos that I never completed. So they were meant to be a trilogy of books, kind of set in the same universe per se, but it's not a high concept universal book like the View Askew universe or the MCU. It's nothing like that. It's a story about a man, because that's what I am, and just being in a particular industry and dealing with the pitfalls and comebacks of each. Now, anyway, there's a lot of stuff on the plate. I'm not lacking for things to work on, but it's always that matter of, do I finish something I have, or do I start something new? Not every idea is going to be realized. And that's something I've come to realize, is that when you are writing, you can complete everything, or you can start things and then pick the ones to finish. And I always have lots of ideas. They're not always great ideas, and they're not all worth completing. I've got a million things to complete. And last but not least, this is on my wife's list of things that she would like me to finish or work on, is Simca. Simca was my first professional work, second professional work, but it was the one that really shaped me as a writer. I worked for a magazine called The Guild Companion, and I wrote a monthly serialized story that ran every month for 3 years. It was challenging, it was rewarding. I was able to tell a grand, epic story from beginning to end, but in a completely, utterly different format. And it was my first time working with an editor, which was very interesting. I worked with 2 different editors in that run. And it was, for those of you that don't know, you can check out my website for some more information about it. But Simca was a game that I ran. I came up with a concept for a game. I brought in players. We played the game. We had an ending to the game. It ran for a number of years, I guess. Those characters are very near and dear to me. They were created by the players, so I took those characters and told the story with a little bit of creative license for the slow parts or for the parts that didn't make sense. So there's a lot of things that I can do with Simca. One of them is converting that 36 months of writing into a novelized series of books. Because they are currently written in comic book format, so a comic script. So they're meant to hand off to an artist for the artist to do his thing with. And all of those issues, they're all written, but they're all out there at the Guild Companion. The first issue was in March 2003. And it ran for 3 years. Every month for 3 years. There's also a bunch of other stuff in the Guild Companion. If you look at the first probably 3 months of the issues that were released, the issues of the Guild Companion, because it's an online magazine. If I didn't mention that, guildcompanion.com. Anyway, there's also additional articles I've written that were on there. There was another series that I started and chose not to finish, called CST, because I love acronyms. And there was just a bunch of additional articles explaining the world that this takes place in. Anyway, it was, I do have ideas that I want to do with Simca down the road, along the lines of making sure that it does become a game at some point, a campaign for a game, because it'd be really fun to play it again with different players, different characters, and just kind of see how it develops. But my wife would like me to novelize that thing, because it is awesome. Simca also became a comic book for 1 3/4 issues. Did publish the comic book. I did create all the characters from the comic book were all converted over to Marvel superheroes role-playing game characters, so they're playable in that setting, but they're also playable in Mutants and Masterminds Volume 1 and Volume 2. So the options of turning it into a game are there. The options to converting it into a comic book are there. But it's all a matter of time devotion. Where am I going to devote my time? If I were to continue with Simca and follow through on the comic book, the game, or the novelization, that's a massive commitment, and I'm not going to be working on anything else if I'm doing that. That being said, if there's any artists out there that are interested, I'd be willing to talk to someone about taking those 36 issues, of which 1 3/4 are already done, and continuing the series, and probably releasing it in some sort of graphic novel format. I think that's the way to go with it. Single issues just don't work for me. Anyway, I've arrived at my destination. I will see you guys on the flip side for Pod a Day week.